students, welcome back to online classes. Last class we have discussed the programming construct. We have completed 3 programming construct, that is a selection construct, what is that sequential construct. Next we have seen the iteration construct. In sequence construct, what you know, the sequential data is to be that is statement should be executed. In selection construct we have studied five different types of selection construct. One is simple if else, if else if, next is nested if, and multiple selection construct, which is also called as the switch statement. And then we have gone to iterative construct. In that iterative we have studied 2 types of construct. One it is unconditional and conditional. In conditional we have seen what is while construct, do while construct. In unconditional we have gone through your for construct. Till there we have gone to a programming construct. We have completed the three process of programming construct. Today's class will discuss what is the characteristics of good programming. So I will say when an algorithm or flowchart, after writing an algorithm or flowchart, you convert it into a program. How you can say it is a good program? If a program occupies less amount of time and the execution time is very less, that is the time taken to execute a program is very less, and it is very easy to modify and portable. These all considered into a good programming. Once again I explain. When we say a good program is when a program, after translation of an algorithm into a program, if a program takes less time and less space, easy to modify and portable, and it is very reliable to portable. In such a program we can say it is a good program. What will it tell me? If a program takes the storage after translation of an algorithm into a program, if takes the amount of space is required is less, and the execution of time is very minimum amount of time, and easy to modify, and even it is portable. What do we mean by modification? If you want to upgrade or update anything code in a program, it should be easy to modify. That is with or minimum changes in the program. It can be a minimum change or without a minimum change in a program. Such a program, that is nothing but such a program you have to be there. That can be considered as a good program. And what is this portability? That is that program, what programming language you have converted from algorithm or a flowchart. That program should be portable, that it should run on each and every computer system. It can be portable, that is with a that is with minimum changes. So there should not be any change, but it should be run on different machines. Such a program we call it as portable. So first we will see what is this means a good program. First we will see problem analysis. Then when a problem is analyzed, you write algorithm or flowchart or pseudocode. I will explain what is this. You already studied what is pseudocode. Then you are going to do a coding or developing. After coding, you are going to debugging, testing. Then you go for a documentation. When the documentation is being completed, you go for your implementation. Then you do a maintenance. So this is how a good programming works. First you start with the problem analysis. You are going to start with the problem. You are going to take the problem. Then with help of problem analysis, you define the, first you go for define the problem. Then you analyze the problem. What should be done to this problem? After our good programming can be there. So after problem analysis, you have seen what is the analyze the input and output, what condition, what constraint is used, what kind of condition is taken place in order to solve that problem. After analyzing that problem, you write an algorithm. The algorithm is nothing but step-by-step procedure in order to solve a program. Then a pseudocode is nothing but a plain language. It can be it is known as what it is. It's a plain language. After algorithm, you write it in the pseudocode. It can be a program but not near the program. It is neither a program, it is just a plain language. After converting a pseudocode, you convert it into a flowchart. Then a flowchart is nothing but pictorial representation of an algorithm called as flowchart. After doing this designing process of your problem analysis, then you are going to code, that you are going to convert your algorithm and flowchart as well as the pseudocode, and keeping as a blueprint you are converting into a coding, that is nothing but writing an actual programming language. After translating a coding, that should be after writing, see, algorithm is written for a particular problem. After algorithm, keeping that as a blueprint, you write it as a coding. You write in one of the high level language, say it is as a C++ language. You convert it into a C++ language, you write a program for this algorithm. Then you are going to debug, you are going to check for the any program has any errors. Debug, you are going to check for the detecting the errors. If any errors is found, you are going to debug that particular errors. Next topic you are going to study what are the types of errors. Then after debugging all the errors, you go for testing. Implement that whether it is a test, that is it going to run as per the user requirement. After the debugging and testing is being completed, then you are going to do a documentation keeping as a reference material for the future uses. Then documentation is done. With help of documentation, you are going to implement the updated, that is for any updation should be done. With help of documentation, you are going to implement in a live day-to-day life process. Then implement it, again you maintain that, maintenance should be done. In order to, maintenance is nothing but for future analysis you are going to maintain the document. Any updation should be done for that particular software or particular program, you are going to go for a maintenance. So these are nothing but characteristics of good programming. What is this characteristics means? A program which takes less amount of time, less space, easy to modify and portable. This is the main thing. When a program has these features, you can say it is a good programming language or good programming code. So how a programming can be done? I have already explained. Analysis, algorithm, flowchart, then coding, debugging and testing, documentation, implement the documentation and maintenance for your updating for the future analysis. So these are nothing but characteristics of good programming. Next we will see the types of errors. So next topic students, we will discuss what is types of errors. So while doing a program, when you convert into algorithm into program coding, you are going to for debugging and testing. In that cases you are going to check for the errors. There are 4 types of errors. One is syntax errors, second one is semantic errors, third one is logical error, fourth one is runtime error. What is this? We will discuss one by one. Syntax errors. Syntax. What is syntax mean? It is a set of rules. It is a set of rules. That rules should be followed. Okay, a set of rules will be there in order to code a program in a programming language. A programming language has a syntax. It's nothing but set of rules. According to the rules, the statement has to be implemented. When you violate these rules, when you avoid, you not follow, you doesn't abide these rules, you enter into a syntax error. That is nothing but a set of rules, or you can say grammatical mistakes. You can say grammatical structure mistake, or structure of the grammatical mistakes. When you occur grammatical mistakes, you enter into a syntax errors. For example, when you do a programming language, when you enter into a lab programs, you can understand. If I explain what is this int, you are going to study in 8th or 9th chapter, integer. You are given x. So this int x, it should be, if you are declaration, I am declaring x variable. If I am declaring another variable, it should be between one variable and to a next variable should be placed a comma. If I am ending my declaration, it should be terminated with my semicolon. If I miss this semicolon, it throws me a syntax error. The rules it has been violated or doesn't abide the rules. Such a error, the grammatical or structure of the grammatical is occurred an error. Such an error we called as the syntax error. Similarly, when you use an output function, cout, enter the number. So this is all you are going to study in your upcoming chapters, and this is all lab program. What is the cout? This is a rule. This is a set of rules. You use a double angled bracket and double quotes. Enter the number. So when you use the double quote, it should be closed with a double quote and have placed a semicolon. If I miss this particular double quotes, again a rule, again it will throw a syntax errors. That is the violated the rules. So according to the syntax, the rule is given to your programming language. You have to follow such rules. If you violate the grammatical structure of a program, such an it will throw an error message that is nothing but a syntax error. During compilation, you come across this kind of error, a syntax error and semantic error. The syntax error is nothing but set of rules. This rule should be followed. If you are violated any rules or grammatical mistakes you have done in your programming language, such errors is showed in your during the compilation. A syntax error is that is the particular line has a syntax error, a missing statement. So this is nothing but your syntax error. Second one, what is the semantic error? The semantic error is also called as logical error. Logic error. It is also called as logic error. What it tells means, it is also called as logic error. You have misused, that is undesired, that is not desired output. You are not getting a desired, that is logically you have gone a program in some mistakes. You have gone through a logic errors means, see, logically during a program translation or program coding, we have used a logic in the incorrect logic. Such an error we called as the semantic error, or it is also called as the meaning errors. There is a wrong meaning errors. That is what it tells means. Suppose I say y is equals to a plus b. I have added a value, b value. I have stored this, suppose 10 and 20. So a plus b is nothing but 10 plus 20 is nothing but 30. I am storing y is equals to 30. This is my logic how to use an addition, that is to perform addition in your variable. So instead of using in a program, I have used a plus b is equals to y. So invalid logic, I am not using a correct logic. Such kind of errors. So this is not, this throws during the compilation, this throws a semantic error, that is a meaning, that is the way of logic is wrong. Such an error we call as the semantic error. Third one, logical error. This is what is this logical error means. You have done a coding, that is algorithm. The source code is being translated into correct translation can be done. But there might be wrong in your source code. What it does means, there may be program is wrong in your source code. In source code, what it tells means, you are getting an undesired result. Undesired result. Suppose if I want to c is equals to that is a and c is equals to, I want to do a addition. Instead of that addition, I used a multiplication. My answer should be suppose 2 and what's that? A value is 2, b value is 3. I want to perform a plus b, that is nothing but 2 plus 3. I want to get the result as 5. I am expecting to get the result. But in your logically, you have used a multiplication symbol or multiplication, that is wrong use of, that is wrong in source code. That is a correct translation can be done with the source code and object code. But the logic, that is logically what this cannot throw any kind of error because multiplication is there. But c is equals to what it happens, 2 into 3 is nothing but 6. So I am expecting the result as 5. But in a logical error, it produces the result as 6. So in such a case, it is nothing but logical error. You have to, in such cases, you have to go through the program once again where you have mismatched the logical error. So this is about your logical error, that is wrong in source code. The translation will be correct, but your logic used in a source code will what you have used might taken a mistake. In such a case, you get an undesired output. The expected result will not be there. You get an undesired output. Such errors occur in a program. We call it as a logical error. Next one, what is runtime error? During program execution, these two will occur in your compilation. But in your logical error, does not occur in your compilation or runtime. That is, you get an output. They will not show any errors, but you get an output, but it will be an undesired output or unexpected output. Such an error we call as the logical error. But the runtime error is nothing but during execution time. That is, during execution time, you get an error. That error we call as runtime error. Suppose A is equals to 10, B is equals to 0. In such a case, if I say C is equals to A divided B, division by 0 is always, it produces a runtime error. So such a division by 0 cannot be take place. Such an error during execution time you get an error. That such an error we called as the runtime error. Once again I explain. Here in types of errors there are 4 types of error: syntax error, semantic error, logical error, runtime error. Syntax is nothing but set of rules. That rule should be followed by the program. If you mismatch any of the rules or grammatical mistake you have done, such an error will be thrown. That is nothing but your syntax error. In a semantic error, it is also called as the logic error. See, this is semantics means meaning. The vocabulary meaning you have done any meaning in your vocabulary meaning gone wrong. Such a thing we call as the semantic error. So, like logic, what you have used, y is equals to a plus b you have done. So, I am adding the variable a and b and storing it in y, a plus b. But when you use the logic in a that is not being expected, that is a plus b, this produces a logic error. So, these two things, that is a syntax and semantic, you can see during your compiling itself. During your compilation takes place only you can get an error, that is syntax and semantic. In your logical error means you have undergone the correct translation of your source code. But writing a source code you have gone to a logically wrong. It does not produce an error, but undesired output will be or an unexpected output will be given to the user. In such cases you have to trace the program. Next you have to go through your logic of your program. Next, runtime error. This occurs only during the execution time. These two occurs in your compilation time. This runtime errors occurs during execution time. Whatever errors occur in your execution time, such an error we call as the runtime error. For example, a is equals to 10, b is equals to 0. A divided by b means, so division by 0 is always an error in your runtime. That is, it provide an error message in your during any execution. That is your runtime error. So these are the types of errors. Next we will see approaches. What are the problem solving approaches in your this particular. So student, next topic is approaches to problem solving technique. What are number of approaches in order to solve the problem? We will undergo into how many number of first one is top down design. What is this top down design means? A problem is there. If a program is there, that program is divided into a program is divided into number of submodules. The submodules is also called as subroutines, functions or segments. You are dividing the problem into subproblems. Again further you are going to divide that subproblems into each subproblem is again divided into subproblems until it leads to the implementation. That is, each subproblem leads to the implementation of the statement. Until then you are going to divide the problem into the subproblems. After dividing the problem into subproblems, you are going to, from the top, you are going to individually solve, that is, you are going to run the individual modules separately. Each module can more than one function. You are going to individually run that problem, implement the problem, then go to the next subproblem. So you are going to, from the top, you are going to each module individually implement it, and you are going to, next subproblem is individually implemented and then combine to get the solution to a problem. Such a problem we call as the top-down design. What is this top-down design means? Suppose I have A is my problem. I am dividing this A into B, C, D. So this is my main problem. This is nothing but my subprogram. These are nothing but my subprogram. So again if B has to be subprogram into each subprogram into further divided means I am dividing this B into E, F. C is nothing but if you are not interested, that is if this C subprogram is leads to the implementation of the statement of a program, you are not going to further divide. If D want to be divided into subprogram, then D is divided into E, F, G, H. So this is subproblem. This is subprogram. 2. This is subprogram onwards. So this is see, I have the main program. I am dividing, that is top down design. From the top I am dividing my modules or dividing my program. My program is divided into subprograms or subroutines or modules or segments, one and the same. Modules I have already explained in a softer concepts. Modules or program segment is nothing but which has an independent statement and individual library will be there. In order to link that particular program, you divide the program into submodules. So B, see, A is divided into B, C, D. subprogram 1, subprogram 2, subprogram 3. This is 2, 3. So, and how long you can divide the program into subprograms? Once you get to a conclusion that particular subprogram can be implemented as a solution, you can stop it. If not, you want to divide again that subprogram into subprograms, another second level of subprogram, you divide that program. But in this case, C is subprogram 2, which can be leads to a statement of implementation, and I am not doing any further further division. But B is being divided into B, that is subprogram B A, subprogram D, subprogram B B. So here C is not done. For D, it is done subprogram D1 you can 1, 2 you can give. Again subprogram D2. So I am dividing I am solving my problem from top to bottom, that is top to down. I am dividing my program into subprogram. I am solving my each individual subprogram modules of segments. It has its own set of functions and library, and solve and get the solution that is linked with another subprogram. Each individually is linked. Then your entire after linking all the subprograms, you get an entire solution to the given problem. Such an approach we call as top-down design approach. What is this advantage means? It is time taken is very limited, and here you can easily detect the errors and easy to modify and easy to quickly you can run the program, because a problem is divided into subprogram. Each modules can be independently run and tested, implemented. So these are the advantages of your top-down design approach. What are the top advantages? Means you can easily implement it, quickly access it, minimum number of errors. So these are the advantages of your top-down design. Next we will see what is bottom-up approach. So second approaches in a problem solving technique. So first we have seen is top-down design. This top-down design, you are dividing a problem into sub-problems. Again, if you want to again divide the sub-problems to further to a sub-problem until you reach a statement that can be directly implemented as the sub-program is directly implemented to a problem solution. Until that, you are going to divide these sub-problems. So this what is the top-down approach is also called as it is also plays a way to a stepwise refinement. Step by step you are refining the solution, that is stepwise refinement, stepwise refinement, stepwise refinement method. It is also one and nothing but your top-down approach, and we have seen what are the advantages, like easy to implement, minimum number of errors, and quickly you can modify the things because it is problem is divided into sub-problems. And what is the second approach is nothing but your bottom-up approach, just reverse of your top-down approach. Here a larger problem is divided into smaller complex problem, small problem. Here again you are dividing a problem into small problem, but the implementation, the solution is taken from the bottom to, that is linking small sub-problems within to the higher level of the another sub-problems. That is the method used in your bottom approach. See here, A means you have used B, C, D, here E, F, G, H. So in your top-down approach, I have gone from top to, I am getting the solution and implemented D separately, C separately, D. Here E, F, G, H. But in your bottom approach, your implementation, that is a testing of the needs from your bottom, from the down. For E, I am getting the solution and trying to link with the B. After getting the solution for F, I am linking with B. That is the difference between your bottom-up approach and top-up approach. But in your bottom-up approach, the main disadvantage is when you are linking your smaller modules to a higher module, the desired, the required output it cannot meet into consideration. That is what I am expecting the solution for this particular problem. The output is not refined. That is, output is not a correct refined value is produced. That is the drawback in your bottom-up approach. When you top to down approach, you get a desired, at least approximately get the desired solution to a complex problem or a problem. But in a bottom-up approach, when you are linking a small sub-program, within to a higher subprogram, again to a higher more subprogram, the whatever the desired output, it does not meet its requirement. Does not meet its requirement. That is the main drawback of your bottom-up approach. So next we'll see what is the programming techniques in your approaches of problem solving. What are the programming techniques? See here, in a programming techniques, there are 4 programming techniques. One is unstructured programming technique. Second one is procedural programming technique. Third one is structured programming technique. Fourth one is modular programming techniques. First we'll see what is unstructured procedural programming techniques. This unstructured programming is nothing but what is this unstructured means? Usually we solve a problem by simple. When you want to solve a problem, you take a simpler problem. How you are going to code means that problem is it is coded in a single unit. So that unit can be accessed through the main. That is only one unit will be there. You are not going to divide it. It is not properly structured. That is unstructured. A program is coded in a single unit. Okay, you are going to code that program in a single unit. That means you have only one main function. With the help of that main program, you are going to access the data. So that is nothing but unstructured programming. A single unit will be there where you are going to code all the data as a single block. Okay, through that block only, within that block only, you are going to access the data. With the help of the main program, you are going to access the data. That is nothing but unstructured programming. In unstructured programming, what it tells means when you want to, if it is a program it is large, if you are for simple program it is support. Simple and very easy program it support. If we go for a larger, it is little complicated. Large code it is very difficult to do in your unstructured programming. That is a larger, in order to in an unstructured programming technique, if you want to try for a larger and complex problem, this code of supporting in an unstructured programming is very difficult. I told when you start a program, you go with the simple and easy programs. So that simple and easy program is coded as a single unit. Within that unit, you are going to access the data. Such a program is called as the unstructured programming. It acts as a single unit. The whole program is lumped into a single unit. Simple unit, that is nothing but an unstructured programming. That is simple and easy. When you go for a large complex program or simple, not only complex, when you go for large code, this will not be supported. That is the drawback of your unstructured programming language. Next, second one is procedural programming language. What is this procedure? Procedure is nothing but a set of code, or set of code, or structured code you can say, a set of structured code that tells all structured code or instruction that tells the computer what to do, how to run the program, how to compile the program. That we called as the procedure code. Once again I am saying, what is this procedural programming means? What is this procedure means? Is a structured code, or you can say procedure code. This code contains these instruction or statements. This code contains the statement. This code will instruct the computer how to run the program. It instructs the computer how to run the program, or execute or compile the program, or execute the program. So that is nothing but procedure. That is nothing but procedure. What is this procedure means? Procedure is nothing but a structured code, or this code contains a statement. That statement instructs the computer how to run the program and execute the program. This procedure code is invoked by procedural code. You want to run this procedure means how you run this procedure by help of procedure code. See, a procedure is nothing but a structured code that contains the statement. That statement instructs the computer how to run the program or execute. So that is nothing but procedure. I want to run this procedure. Okay. In order to run this procedure, how it is run means with help of a procedural call, you are going to run this particular procedure. See, first I am executing a main program. This is my main program. I am executing. Okay. I am executing my main program. So after executing certain number of statements, I procedure call. So again, a call is transferred to a procedure. Call. So I will execute again a certain number of in a procedure, a statement. Again the call or again the flow transferred to a main program. Again the flow is transferred to a main program. Again another set of instruction is executed. I want to again execute this procedure. The control is transferred to a procedure call. Like this, that is separately you are going to execute your main program and procedure, but you have a link between your main program and procedure. A procedure is nothing but this tells the program what and all instructions to be executed, that is a set of statements how to be executed in order to solve your problem. So that is nothing but your procedural programming. In a more simple essay, is nothing but procedure is nothing but a set of statements that helps the computer to how to take a particular task and execute it. That is nothing but your procedure. How you are going to access this procedure? With help of procedural call, you are going to access this particular procedure. Such a programming we called as the procedural programming language. And what are the disadvantages? It does not support reusability. It does not support reusability. See here unstructured programming acts as a single unit, a single block, and it's only for a simple program. When you go for a complicated program, a large program, it does not support. Here a procedure will be there, a code will be there, a structured code will be there that help the computer how to run the program. So how you work use of this procedure with the help of a procedure call. And what is the disadvantage means? This is nothing but it does not support your reusability of your code. That is, if you want to use that procedure, again you have to rewrite the procedure programming techniques. So this is between your unstructured and procedure. Next we will see what is structured and modular programming techniques. So third programming technique is structured programming techniques. What is this? By name itself a structured, that is what we are using is nothing but now day-to-day life is nothing but a structured programming techniques. Since this is a program is well structured, we use a sequence construct. What all is used in a structured programming is nothing but a sequence, selection, the construct what all, and you have used iteration, and you have used your structured subroutines. Structured subroutines are nothing but your functions. A structured program contains all this constructs, that is all this particular instruction, that is the sequence instructions are there, selection instructions are there, iteration construct can be, even it can have subroutines, a well-defined function. These will all exist in a structured programming techniques. What is all it is forbidden or it is not in a banned means, forbidden means, what is all it should not exist, You should, well program should not be in your structured programming means, you should not often use to go to break statement and multiple entry of procedure. That we are going to study what is multiple entry of procedure, subroutines, what is subroutines, functions, and even multiple exist. Keep on coming out of the loop. Multiple exist of procedure, subroutines, and even function should not be given in your well-structured programming language. So it should have a programming construct, what we have discussed, sequence, selection, iteration, and structured subroutine. You are going to study what is function in the coming 13th chapter, I think, user-defined function. There you are going to study what is functions. All these sequences of instructions are there. All the statements exist in your structured programming construct, programming techniques. What all should not be there in your structured programming function? Keep on, that is a go to break statement, that is multiple times, that is you have a function keyword called go to statement or break statement. Then you have no need of going to multiple times to entry to a procedure, subroutines, functions, and multiple times exiting, coming out of the loops of your procedures and entry, that is your subroutines and your function. These all should not be activities, should not be done in your well structured programming techniques. Next we are going to see what is structure means. A programming language is in a well structured. If you have already told what is programming construct. A programming construct can be developed in a well structured program. When your program consists of all this particular thing, you can say such a program we call it as the structured programming techniques. Last one, that is nothing but modular programming techniques. So last but not least in your programming technique is nothing but modular programming technique. What is this module? I have told a program, a large problem is divided in a program is divided into a number of modules or sub-program. Such a modules or sub-program we call it as the modules or program segments. See, a problem is there. A problem, this is my main problem. I am dividing this problem into sub-problem. A sub-program. So these sub-program, this is sub-program. These sub-program we call it as modules, or it is also called as the program segments. So each module has its own set of instruction, along with what is this? Library function, built-in library function. In order to invoke this instruction, what is library function? You are going to study in upcoming classes. So each module has its own set of instruction along with its library function. Each module is separately, each individual module is separately, independently tested and implemented. Such a module and the language used for this programming, this particular module, we call it as the modular programming language or modularity. The language used or programming language used for this module, we call it as the modularity programming language. See, once again I am telling what it tells means a modular programming language or modularity means a problem is divided into sub-problem. Each sub-problem we call it as module or program segments. Each module consists of its own set of instruction and its library function in order to support the statement, and this module can be independently tested and implemented. Why we need to separately test it and implement it? In order to get the solution to a program or problem. So that's what language used to build this module. Such a programming language we call it as the modularity programming language or modular programming language. And we'll see what are the advantages. That is easier debugging. First advantage is, since it is problem is divided into sub problems, it is very easier for debugging. That is simple. When you are in order to consider a large problem, you go by line by. That is if it consists of program consists of 3000 lines. In such cases, for example, I am telling each cases if you want to debug that particular thing, it takes a lot of time. It is very tedious task. When you consider each sub-program or modules, it is very easier for debugging. That is nothing but first advantage is easier for debugging, because you are going to have sub-problems or module. It is very easy to find the errors in the modules, each separate module. Next, it is reusability. What is this reusability means? Suppose I have given sub-problems. Suppose my sub-problem 2. And with this sub-problem 2 or sub-problem module 2, that is module 2 is oftenly used by many of the modules. I keep this set of statements separately. Whenever other modules need to use this particular thing, I am going to connect a link, or I am going to control is transferred to that. I am going to make use this module again there. No need of rewriting the statement again. That is what it tells me. In your modular programming language and supporting the reusability means a certain set of modules keep on by other modules is repeatedly. Suppose module 2 is repeatedly used by module 1, module 3, module 4 you think. In such cases, I am separately copying this set of statements. I am storing this module separately. Whenever which module is make use of that particular set of statement, the control is copied to with that particular thing. No need of rewriting the module or set of statements again. That is, it supports reusability. And it also supports building your library function. It also supports your library function. I have already told each module has its set of statements and its library function. In order to invoke these statements properly, each module has its facility or has its independent to build the library function. Next, fourth one, portability. I have already told portability. So, what is this portability? So, this particular module statement should be a program or sub-module should be run in each independently run in different machines. So, using a modular programming language, this portability can be achieved. That is, each module or sub-programs can be run on a different individual machines. So, these are the advantages of your modular programming. Once again, modular programming is nothing but a problem is divided into sub-program. So, this sub-program is called as the module. So, each module will have its set of instruction and along with library function in order to invoke this instruction. So, this language used to design this module we call as the modularity programming language. And what a complex problem, you can say in other words, a complex problem is divided into simpler problems, that is sub-problems. So, what are the advantages? Means easier debugging. Instead of having a lengthy problem, it is divided into part 1, part 2 or sub-problem. So, if you find any errors, it has a limited number of instructions. You can find easily the errors. Next, reusability. Suppose a module, in one module, repeatedly the set of statements is used by many other number of modules. That module's statements, that module can be copied and kept as it is. So, whenever the other modules make use of, directly control is transferred. Such a thing we call as the reusability. I have already told each module has a separate library function. Portability, it should run on different machines. That is the programming, modular programming language supports different machines, supports in each different individual machines. So, this is about your particular programming techniques, and I have ended this problem solving methodology with this particular classes. If you have find any doubts, put it in your assignment questions of your 4th chapter software concepts. So, let us see in other chapter, that is a new chapter in next session. So, thank you one and all.